Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
It's got a lot of power.
Come on, Greg. You're asking a guy whose team name is Pellet Envy. So obviously the answer you're going to get is no.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Fine. How you doing?
Charbono. It's all about the Charbono, dude. I just like being anywhere with Junior, Senior, and Diva.
Sounds like a whole other type of movie.
Wow. Yeah, really.
You could use it to fight off creeping marauders looking to take your steaks off your grills.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
But listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
How hot is Kelly Ripa in person?
Kelly Ripa is super hot. She's absolutely delicious.
Oh, yeah.
You could butter baste her and Frank Twinkies with that girl. She's delish.
Well, to put it briefly, let's just say I went to school.
There's no Robert Porker who's in charge of pig meat out there.
Is it not correct to properly classify you as Harry Sue's pit bitch?
I was his pit bitch for 6 weeks. I have no shame. I was. Keep it hot, keep it clean, keep it lubricated.
Succulent fish. What?
This right here is the premier media hour.
So did you see this one? Tiger Woods has gone ahead and checked into sex rehab. Hey, Tiger, guess what? Everybody's addicted to sex.
I'm shaking like a dog shitting peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Who? Top men.
All right, we are moving into the second hour. Thanks for coming on. Barbecue Central show, about 52 minutes past the hour. Or 8 minutes past the top of the hour. 52 minutes till the top. Thanks again to Mike McLeod from MMA Creative for coming on, talking about the new Sam's Club deal that they have with the KCBS. Also, thanks to Ray Lampe, second segment in the first hour, for talking about pretty much everything we had on that was related to either KCBS or Competition Barbecue in general. So if you missed that, look for the podcast coming up tomorrow early in the morning. But forget about all of that, folks, because we have a huge interview lined up here for After Dark. Joining me is the competitive barbecuer who has jumped into the TV's spotlight of the general public, thanks in large part to the TLC Barbecue's Pitmaster TV show. He is the pitmaster of Slap Yo Daddy Barbecue, and we race to the phones. What the hell is going on here? Sorry about that. Let's do this again. We race to the phones. Terry Sue, everybody. Terry, thanks for coming on the show tonight. How are you?
Hey, Greg. I'm doing great. How about you?
I am doing absolutely fabulous. Apologize for a little technical difficulty right there. But first of all, I appreciate you taking time out tonight. I know you're very busy. Believe me, I've been on the website. I've been on the blog. I see what you have coming up here. I mean, you are on a race to put on at least 500, if my calculations are correct, at least 558 million miles this year, aren't you?
Close enough. We are trying our best for a jack draw, and we tried very hard last year, but we kind of took a 3-month hiatus to do the show, which we enjoyed tremendously. But this year, we really want to get back to the jack race.
All right, so let's go ahead, speaking of the jack race, let's go ahead and take a look back at this past weekend as a starter, and then, of course, we're going to be covering a bunch of stuff here during the show. You competed at the Morgan Hill No Bull Barbecue Cook-Off, which was a California State Championship event. You walk away with the whole deal, Grand Championship. Of course, this being your second of the year, that being Grand Championships. And this done against 51 other teams, and you've been very successful 2010 campaign thus far. Aside from the 2 Grand Champions, you have a pair of third-place finishes. Overall, you have a nice head of steam pointing to the Great American Barbecue Competition in Kansas City in a few weeks. And looking back at the No Bull event, after everything was turned in, how'd you feel about those categories?
We felt really good, and as with everything else, it's really impossible to tell how the judges will react. We're trying out a couple of new recipes this year to kind of try to get an edge on everyone else. I was very pleased to hear that the judges enjoyed what we submitted.
You get you win the pork category. You get a third in both chicken and brisket. And then inevitably, it seems this year, from all the competition cooks that I've talked to that have won events, you have one that kind of finishes well below where you were at. Now, don't get me wrong, 11th out of 51 other participants is certainly great, but you have 11th place ribs. Are you happy with that, or do you wonder what it was that was keeping you from continuing to be in that top 3 echelon?
Greg, it's all about consistency, and we try our best to do our best in all 4 categories. But on any given day, there's basically a lot of diversity in the judging. Sometimes the judges like it, sometimes they hate it. We've had ribs that we turned in the previous contest at Stagecoach, where some of the judges gave me a 3 on my ribs.
A 3?
Yes, a 3, and without any comment card. So we just kind of go with the flow, and we just try to do our best. The key is consistency. If you nail, say, 3 categories, and the 4th category you don't sort of fall too far behind, then you're in the running for the GC. In California, as in anywhere else, the competition is fierce. You really have to be on top of your game if you want to make it to the top of the heap.
Do you find that when you're competing on the West Coast, if you kind of stretch more into the Midwestern or the belly part of the state, the country, that you need to change those flavor profiles, or do you have to be consistent regardless of where you're at in the country?
I think what I learned on the show, since that was our first opportunity to cook in the Midwest, and the East Coast, was to sort of adjust our flavor profiles as we went across the country. I can tell you that out here in California, they like it bold, they like it spicy. In kind of the Midwest, we had to tone the flavors down. I think folks out there kind of prefer it more sweet, perhaps not so much flavor and not so spicy. And when we were cooking in Texas, it was more smoky and more more salty. And that was sort of my general impression. I don't claim to be an expert, but we've had some level of success cooking in other parts of the country.
Harry Sue from Slap Yo Daddy Barbecue Team joining us here on the Barbecue Central Show after DARP. Harry, typically I ask teams if there was anything out of the ordinary that they would have to contend with during the event, but I wonder, because of the TV show and the success that has had with a number of other the competitors I've had on the show, are you dealing with what everyone else has to deal with? And then on top of that, are you contending with fans, groupies, and other hangers-on, people that want to get a piece of you in some way during the competition that might detract from what you need to get done during that event?
Greg, the biggest challenge when we compete today are the awesome crowds. It's just amazing to see so many new teams begin their barbecue journey because they saw us on TV. And if we're using a $200 smoker that we purchased off Amazon.com, everyone feels that they too can jump into barbecue. At Morgan Hill, I believe there were at least a dozen brand new teams. I was able to kind of do a little clinic on Friday night that I showed them how to do ribs. And we did a little box clinic on Saturday morning to show them how they make the lazy man boxes that we do. And it's just amazing that we had so many fans and so many followers, all, everyone with just such passion for barbecue. It was just an awesome feeling.
Do you find it hard to prioritize what you need to get done versus not wanting to be a shirk to the people that are out there to see you, or you have it pretty well down by now?
I think we have it pretty much down by now, but I really want to kind of reach out to everyone who wants to learn barbecue, who wants to talk about barbecue, because, my passion comes from my heart, and I really want to share that passion with anyone who wants to learn, wants to talk about it, wants to share information. We also had, interestingly enough, a Wall Street Journal reporter, a photographer with us during the Morgan Hill cook-off, and he was busy shooting shots out of my turn-in boxes, and we actually moved my entire turn-in process out in the open under the sun outside of the canopy.
Wow. So
you could get good shots. And I was amazed. There must have been maybe 30, 40 people who stood around and were taking pictures and I guess taking note of how I was doing my boxes, because I saw lots of blog posts and lots of pictures, and people were commenting how I was in exercise, in concentration, when I was fully involved in, doing my chicken and my rib boxes.
I believe pitmasters coined that term shigging.
Yes, there's a lot of that goes on, and I will tell you that, I shig with the best of them. I, have to admit, I was with the world's best, and watching Tuffy and, Leanne, Myron, Johnny, and everyone work was really an eye-opener for me. I was just like a kid in a candy store being, kind of cooking with the world champions. we're sort of a low-profile, no-name team from California, and being thrust into the limelight to cook with the best and to be treated as an equal was really a once-in-a-lifetime experience for us.
All right, so Harry, again, we're speaking with Harry Sue, Slap Your Daddy, barbecue team pitmaster. Let's go ahead and jump all the way back, why don't we, at this point, since we covered last weekend. How does the beginnings of Slap Your Daddy actually happen? Where does your interest in barbecue start, and how does that morph into competition?
It started off kind of at my workplace. I had several coworkers who had asked me to participate in sort of a African American Association fundraiser. So they said, hey, why don't you cook some barbecue? And I decided to try my hand at cooking barbecue brisket. And we served it to about 1,000 people in the downtown high-rise where I work. And everybody commented and said, hey, this is pretty good barbecue. Why don't you enter a barbecue contest? Nothing really happened until about early 2008 when the movie The Bucket List with Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson came out. And because of The Bucket List, one of my coworkers said, hey, we should all sit down and put together a bucket list. And to make it interesting, we'll just write some stretch goals for each other. So after I did my list, one of my coworkers said, why don't you enter a barbecue contest? And I did my first one in 2008, and lo and behold, we won first in chicken and reserve champion. And kind of like that set us off, and the rest is sort of history. I always tell the new teams that when you go to your first contest, hope that you don't win anything or don't take a walk. Because once you do, you'll be hook, line, and sinker, and all your time and money from now on will be spent in barbecue contests.
Yeah, that was one of my follow-up questions, was the fact that, I imagine you were probably like most who actually do it. You win, you win right at the first event you go to, and you're probably immediately hooked right after that because you want that rush again.
Yeah, I cannot describe in words the rush of having been called to walk on stage. It could be 8 teams, it could be 80 teams. That rush and that thrill is something that stays with you. And I know that that's why so many people compete in barbecue, because that adrenaline rush, is impossible to describe.
Harry Sue of Slap Your Daddy barbecue team joining us. Harry, barbecue team names are always something very intriguing to me, a great talking point that I like to bring up when I'm interviewing pitmasters. And there's certainly lots of great team names that are out there. Certainly yours is no different. So I got to ask, where does Slap Your Daddy come from?
Slap Your Daddy actually was an invention of my coworker. She's from Mississippi, and a good friend of mine, she told me that in the South, when you eat something you like, you want to go out and slap somebody. And Slap Your Mama is a common name. Since I was a single dad, she said, hey, why don't you call it Slap Your Daddy? And I tried that name, and it stuck from day one. Every time we put our banner up when we compete, I actually have a line of people, getting ready for barbecue samples. And the funny thing is, when they come up to the booth and they actually see me, the first question that comes to mind is that, did you really cook that barbecue?
Yeah, I mean, I have to imagine, and certainly no disrespect intended, but you're probably not the most stereotypical looking and sounding guy when it comes to cooking award-winning competition barbecue.
And I think that that's our little secret. I think that we have embraced barbecue as if barbecue sauce flowed through our veins. And as an immigrant to America, I moved here in the early 80s. I went to school, college, and then subsequently got a job in America. I think I truly, truly appreciate this American art form. Barbecue is about the only food in America that's not copied from some other culture. We stole, the pizza, the hot dogs, the hamburger. But cooking meat above ground for 10, 12 hours at a time is truly American, cuisine, and it's a true, authentic American culture.
Is there anything that you can point to as why other countries haven't picked that up? Is it the thing that it's more readily available to us? Is it something that we just like, and like soccer, we make, most of America makes fun of, Europe and all the other countries for making soccer so popular. Are the other countries looking at us and kind of scoffing at us because barbecue is so popular over here, you think?
I don't think they scoff at us, because I know that barbecue is hugely popular elsewhere. And once people get the first taste of authentic American barbecue, something that's low and slow, juicy, moist, and mouth-watering, they're instantly hooked because it's not really that easy to cook good barbecue. I know that you've had many viewers and many people have tried. It's really not that easy, and it really takes a lot of skill to put out competition-grade Q.
No doubt about it. We're talking with Harry Sue, Slap Yo Daddy, barbecue team's pitmaster. Harry, question I was getting a lot of, from emails this week when I was putting it out there that you're going to be on the show here after dark. Given the success of the pellet cookers that have been getting here over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, winning a lot of competitions, a lot of team of the years, using those FEC cookers to kind of garner those championships. Of course, extreme popularity with those Jambo pits as you're well at hand, getting a lot of firsthand experience with those from Jamie Geer. You continue to use a pair of 18.5-inch Weber Smoky Mountain cookers. Have you given any thought to a newer, bigger pit, or is what you know, and you're going to stick with what's winning for you?
Greg, the true secret about barbecue is not the smoker, it's the cook. And I believe that if you know what you're doing, you can put out competition Q with the hole in the ground. And the primary reason I use the little 2 18-inch WSMs is because, I travel from contest to contest in a little minivan, the kind of same minivan that you take your kids to soccer practice. And for me, barbecue is a hobby, and these 2 18-inch WSMs seem to be able to do the job. I cook against the best in the country, including, some rigs costing $20,000+. You saw on the show, at one point in time, I was up against 4 Jambos.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, in the season finale, episode 8, we were in Texas cooking in the Johnny Ribs cookout. And during the morning of the contest, they line us up in front of the ranch on a little hill, and they place my 2 WSMs at the bottom of the hill, right? So when I turn around and look up the hill, I see, an artillery of 4 Jambos, and then with Leanne's green eggs and Myron's specialized pit. And I thought to myself, boy, did they stack this contest, against me. But I was completely amazed that we tried our best, and we ended up winning the season finale. And I actually got some moolah from Myron and Johnny and Tuffy and everyone else. So that was really a great feeling because I proved to everyone in the country that it's not the pit, it's the pit master that matters.
Have you ever fooled around with other pits just for fun?
I've cooked on other pits, like eggs, stick burners, and so on. But, I think for simplicity, I think it's hard to beat a WSM. I have this great computer that I hook up to it. It's made by Rock's Barbecue System. It's a little stoker system.
Yep.
With a little PC fan, a little computer, and a little temperature probe. And I usually set my smokers up at around 11 p.m. on Friday night, and I'm able to go to sleep and sleep soundly until about 5 in the morning. So for my kind of cooking, the WSMs and my stoker, they work beautifully.
So you kind of alluded here to the show, and I want to certainly get into that. How does the TLC Barbecue Pitmaster show actually avail itself to you?
It was purely by accident. I think that I'm not even sure how we got on the show, but I do know that John Marcus, the executive producer, the same producer who actually was the writer on the Cosby Show, and he was an Emmy award-winning writer.
Oh, yes.
He contacted someone from KCBS, I believe Carolyn, and somehow I had met Carolyn when she was out here on the California tour, and she passed my name on to John Marcus. Now, this is interesting because I was in the middle of my rib turn-in at a contest in Northern California. And I was 8 minutes from being disqualified on my rib, and all of a sudden my cell phone rings, right? So the guy says, hey, my name is John. I'm a TV producer. I want to talk to you about being on a TV show. So I sort of said, yeah, sure. And I kind of hung up on John because I thought he was another team pranking me and trying to throw me off my concentration before turn-in. So it wasn't until the drive home, the 6-hour drive home from Northern California, that I looked at my cell phone and I told my partner, I said, hey, I got a call, I thought from New York, and I looked at my cell phone and there it was, a call from a New York area code. So I ended up calling John back, and we hit it off right away, and we were signed up on the show within 3 days, and we were shooting episode 1 in Mesquite the week after. So I was kind of a late addition to the show. I think that they had us on a show more or less as a wild card, that these 2 crazy IT backyard guys on the West Coast, no less, cooking on a couple of WSMs, how would they fare against the world champions. So that's kind of how we kind of got our plunge into the world of, TV series.
So it sounds like after John had pitched the show that you guys were pretty much right in from Jump Street, or were there some things that you needed to work out first before you fully committed?
I think that if someone came up to you and said, hey, we wanted you to go play golf with Nicholson and Woods, what would you say?
Well, I have a personal issue with Jack Nicholson, which we're not going to get into here on the show, and I'm not kidding about that. With Tiger Woods, yeah, I mean, certainly holding any personal discrepancies anybody has with him, why not play with, what many would consider to be the best golfer in the world? I would absolutely do it. We're talking with Harry Sue, Slap Your Daddy barbecue team. Well, I'll tell you about that story about Jack Nicholson off the air, or Jack Nicklaus off the air. Don't worry about it. So I've talked to most of the show cast members here over the past few months and kind of get their take on the whole show. And from your perspective, did you enjoy doing the show, and do you think it helped generate new interest in the world of competition barbecue?
Oh, I absolutely enjoyed the show. I was, as I said earlier, like a kid in a candy store, having the opportunity to cook against the world's best, to sort of, get to know them on a personal level, and for them to even share some of their, thoughts and secrets with me. It was a tremendous, tremendous journey. We never, in our wildest dream, that would have imagined that a Cinderella-type story like this would unfold for our little short barbecue career, especially for a team on the West Coast. There are many dozens of great teams on the West Coast, and we are just so tickled that we ended up being picked to be on the show.
Now, there were a number of folks, especially on internet forums, who were very critical, to say the least, of the show, saying that it wasn't properly portraying what barbecue competitions are really like. The show was staging drama in order to attract a bigger viewing audience. So as someone who was obviously right in the middle of the whole production itself, how true do you think that the finished product that we saw on television stayed true to the raw footage that was taped at each event?
Everything stayed true to the raw footage. I will tell you that John Marcus and his co-producer Brian Catalina are perfectionists. Nothing on the show was scripted. Everything happened as is. I mean, that hailstorm and the lightning storm happened at the right time. The sort of fight that almost broke out with Johnny happened on time. I fell asleep at the Royal. Everybody on the show basically kind of did their own thing. I think the idea is if you shoot 150 hours of footage per episode, there's bound to be multiple stories in there. And if you watch the series, only certain teams were featured during those episodes because they had the most compelling stories. And I heard from John that there were many, many compelling stories within each episode. They just had to select the best segments to be put into a 40-minute show.
You don't think anybody was getting a little bit more favoritism than another team?
I think that it's not about favoritism because it's a show that was put together to entertain people. Right? I think the cooking is important, but what is more important is the entertainment factor of the different segments of the show. And the show is actually designed for a general audience. It's not a show that's made for competition barbecuers or even backyard barbecuers. I watch reality shows on TV, even though I don't have any interest in what these people do, but I watch it because of the human drama, the humor, the kind of the catfighting that goes on, and I'm sure for the pitmasters, the same thing applies.
Sure. Now, that's funny because I did an interview with Gary Notley, pitmaster of Notley Q competition team a few months ago, and he admitted live on the air that he has a man crush on you, that he was indeed your pit bitch for the majority of the TV show. But, all kidding aside, how integral was Gary in your ability to actually do the show and perform well?
I always tell people that if you live a blessed life, when things happen, they happen for a reason, and the right people enter your life. When John pitched the show to me, I thought to myself, I have a day job. How the heck am I going to get my gear 1,000 miles across the country between contests and try to keep my job? And it was at that exact point in time, Gary Notley came into the picture. Gary's a good buddy of mine. We began our journey together at our rookie year in 2008 on the California circuit, and we had been duking it out against each other the entire year. I finally ended up aging Gary for Rookie of the Year, but Gary and I were right up there, exchanging first place in California during 2008. During the course of that intense rivalry, we became best friends and almost like barbecue brothers. And at the exact point when the show was offered to me, Gary was between jobs. And he said, "Hey, Harry, I tell you what, I'll help you out, and I'll drive your van from city to city so you can fly back on Sunday, go back to work, and fly out on Thursday to shoot the next episode." And when that came together, I knew that we had a magical formula. And Gary has been tremendous as my third team member, and also as my barbecue brother, and also as my barbecue advisor. And he really helped us do well on the show. He made us all look good, and he really played that third supporting role in a tremendous, tremendous way. And I owe a lot of gratitude to Gary Knopfle.
All right, so Harry, is it safe to say that you have a reciprocating man crush on Gary, or is that just a one-way street for him?
It's a two-way street. Gary is my barbecue brother.
Yeah, baby! We're talking with Harry Sue from Slap Yo Daddy Barbecue Team. Harry, there's a new season of Barbecue Pitmasters underway. Are you included in this cast, or has there been any type of final decision that you have heard of that might have been handed down?
Well, I have not heard anything directly, but what I have heard is that they are looking for audition tapes from new teams, and maybe the format of the show may change to more of a kind of a throwdown between several teams in each episode, and perhaps some teams making it to the end. I have not been contacted officially, unofficially about being on season 2. But, we had a great time in season 1, and if the opportunity presents itself, we'll be happy to be back.
Okay, so it's funny you mentioned the format change because I was reading in a few different places, it was maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, that there was actually going to be some type of different format into the show, as you mentioned, kind of like a throwdown type thing. Do you think just removing yourself from first season, looking at it as somebody that watched the show, do you think it would be a good idea to change the format after only one season, or do you think that something might have been needed to ramp up in order to build an even bigger audience?
I think season 1 had been successful because they got the viewership ratings that they needed. And I know that John Marcus is a very talented producer, and he knows barbecue, and he knows how to put on a great TV show. So whatever instinct he has on how to reconfigure the show, I think that he knows really what he's doing, and whatever he's going to do, I know he's going to be successful, because if you've met John, right, and if you've talked to him, you know that he really has a passion for what he does. He's put our team kind of ahead of everything else, and we were treated like first-class rock stars when we were on the show.
All right, so let's go ahead and switch gears back again to cooking. And as someone who's relatively new to the competition circuit, going on your second, third year now. What 2-3 things would you tell a new team looking to break into the circuit that maybe you had to learn the hard way?
I think the most important thing about barbecue is to practice. And you want to do that not in the heat of competition. You want to do it at home. I always tell my barbecue students that always practice with the simple things that you have. It's no secret. I tell everybody that we practice a lot using an oven. Just a plain
secret to me.
Home oven, because I spend a lot of time tweaking my recipes. I cook by what I call brute force. So because I have no pedigree, I don't have, my grandpa who taught my pa who taught me. Right. I cook everything from scratch. So, for example, if I cook a piece of chicken, I'll cook it with salt and pepper as one option. And then I'll do salt, pepper, chili powder, salt, pepper, chili powder, sugar, salt, pepper, chili powder, sugar, and garlic powder. Oh, wow. And I built these Excel spreadsheets, right, where I carefully log the flavor, the appearance, texture, and the flavor profile. And I build my recipes from the ground up that way. And, it's been a successful approach. In doing all of these testing in the oven, I build up a lot of knowledge about how meat cooks and how the flavors come together in the final product. And once I debug it in the oven, then I'll go and cook it out on my gas grill. And once it works on the gas grill, then I actually put it in a smoker. So I may go through dozens and dozens of recipes until I find one that I like. And I do it on a smoker. I do it at a contest. We watch the results, and then we go from there.
All right, so when you're taking it from the oven, you go to the gas grill, now you go to the smoker, and you have a recipe that has worked in the previous 2 modes of cooking. When you take it to the smoker, doesn't something change because you're adding now smoke to the whole process?
Yes, once you add smoke and you add, I use this Kingsford charcoal, the inexpensive one. It all comes together, and the browning reaction or the Maillard reaction on a smoker is actually different because you can't really get that in the oven. The smoke ring that you get in a WSM is completely different. You can't get a smoke ring really in an oven unless you add other additives. So when it all comes together on my WSM in my backyard, I fine-tune the recipe and I cook it again and again and again. For example, it's no secret that I cook using Wagyu briskets, and it's taken me about a year and a half to get to a point where I can cook them properly.
Wagyu briskets, well worth the additional dollars, or have you been listing it maybe like choice cuts instead?
I have cooked every brisket there is in the world. I have a sponsor, Roberto from TMH Meats in San Marcos near San Diego, and he's been supplying me all kinds of different kinds of meat. I have steadily gone through the entire repertoire of briskets, from Australian Wagyu to American to Cab to Select, Choice, Prime. You name it, I've tried it. And I recently been able to strike up a relationship with the folks at Snake River Farms. Kim Kalinsky is someone who is a good friend of mine now, and she's helping me source some of these Wagyu briskets from Snake River Farms, and they have been really working out for us. We've been finishing in the top 5 in most contests since I perfected the way on how to cook them.
All right, so I'd asked Ray Lampe this question earlier in the first hour, and something that I've kind of been asking the pitmasters that are coming here on the show over the last few weeks, and want to get your take on it too. When you talk to the big pitmasters that are out there on the circuit that are winning consistently, they tell you, look, don't even worry about if you're somebody that's looking to get in. Don't even worry about building a flavor profile or spices or rubs or sauces or anything like that. You got to learn how to cook the meat first. So let's go ahead and remove that portion from the equation. Let's say I know how to cook the 4 meats well enough to go to the next level. How does one go about building a flavor profile and, perhaps more important than that, a successful one that will do well in competition?
I think the first thing you need to do is to go out and eat some good barbecue. When I first started competing on the California circuit, I had not really tasted good West Coast barbecue. And what I did was I got in my car and I drove 500 miles round trip for lunch. I drove to a small little restaurant in Clovis, California called Q-In for You, owned by Brent and Kim. And they were the team of the year for California for 4 years in a row. Mm-hmm. They went on to open a really nice restaurant in Clovis, which is about 250 miles from me. So I drove out there, had lunch, sat down, ate a combo plate. And I marveled at how great their barbecue was. And I told myself, okay, if this is what is the best on the West Coast, then that becomes my goal to accomplish. And when I went home, I spent the next several weeks trying to emulate that flavor. And it's basically been a steady trial and error process from that point.
So are you a pro-garnish guy or an anti-garnish guy?
I actually feel that it's important to garnish. For anyone who has taken a CBJ class, that's going to be a segment in the class where you're given a tray that has no garnish. And everybody scores that entry, and at the end of the judging class, they tell you that the tray without the garnish was the same exact barbecue that they had eaten when it had garnish. So we all eat with our eyes, and our own individual results have shown that when the garnish is right, the scores tend to be higher. That's why I always try to put on what we call a free clinic on Saturday morning. It's called the Slap Your Daddy Lazy Man Box Clinic, where I show them how, for less than $4, using maybe 1 big head of lettuce and 3 heads of curly parsley, I can make 4 beautiful boxes that have the potential to score 9s. And I actually taught this to a lot of the pitmasters, including Johnny Triggs and Jamie Gear, who are using this Stab Your Daddy Lazy Man Box technique to good results. And what I want to try to do is show all the teams that it's not really that hard to create a beautiful presentation using very little in materials, but it's the technique that truly separates you from the pack.
Just practice on your part, or did somebody teach you as well?
I sat down and looked at it like a business problem because by day, I'm an IT project manager running some large-scale projects for a water utility in downtown Los Angeles. So I like to solve problems, So I asked myself, right, some teams have spouses that spend 2 or 3 hours with a case of lettuce, right, to make these beautiful 3-hour boxes. And I thought to myself, wait a minute here. It's just me and my teammate, and we don't have time to do that. So this is the least favorite part of a contest for me. So I want to do it quickly. I want to do it efficiently. I want to do it at low cost, and I want it to be a 9-box. So I decided, hey, why don't I just chop my lettuce like taco salad and place it at the bottom of the box, because all it does is it allows me to put the meat on it and to allow the excess sauce to drain under the chopped lettuce. And what I do is I line the edge with a 1-inch ring of curly parsley. And I place the meat right in the middle. And because the meat covers everything, really you don't need that much parsley to make a beautiful box. So I kind of coined it the Slap Your Daddy Lazy Man box, because I could do that in about 15 minutes flat, do all 4 boxes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so certainly a substantial time savings. And, this question I'm about to ask you, I ask pretty much everybody that's been competing in barbecue competition, whether they do it actively now or they've done it in the past. I mean, I don't think there's any argument that the teams that are doing very well, yourself included, are garnishing box weekend in and weekend out. So the question is this. Do you think that the garnish rule should either be voted in as a mandatory part of turn-ins or voted out altogether? Because to me it seems that the way it sits now, which by rule it says garnish is optional, isn't really giving you a fair shot at winning if you don't garnish your box. What do you think about that?
I tend to agree. I think it should be, garnish or no garnish instead of optional. On the California side, we do a lot of IBCA type contests, and in IBCA, really, there's no garnish. It's just a piece of aluminum foil. And in some regard, I feel that the foil way is really much more fair, because, it's a meat contest. It's a barbecue contest. It's not how well you can position the lettuce and the parsley with a tweezer or a Q-tip. It's about barbecue. But unfortunately, all the judges, they eat with their eyes. And if you have a beautiful garnish, that is, in my opinion, mandatory if you want to win.
Harry Sue of Slap Yo Daddy joining us here at Barbecue Central Show After Dark. Harry, I was reviewing your calendar. You have a lot of events on your schedule this year. You were Rookie of the Team in 2008. Do you have your sights set for KCBS Team of the Year in 2010, or is it really just about the Jack Draw this year, and you'll wait for Team of the Year down the road?
Well, the way I see it, Greg, is in the previous years, we were kind of a big fish in a small pond, and I'm beginning to compete at a national level, and I recognize and appreciate that we will be a small fish in a big pond, but we're going to do our best. We're going to be able to prove ourselves in about a week and a half at the Great American Barbecue in Kansas City. We were fortunate enough to win reserve champion there last year against 160 teams. I believe that was the first time a team west of Texas had done so well in the Midwest. So we're going to go back this year to prove to everyone that we are not a one-hit wonder. But I know the competition is tough, but we are up to it, because I truly believe that in order to get better, you've got to cook against the best. If I were a bicyclist, right, then I know that I would have to go to Paris and, ride the Tour de France. With barbecue, it's the same way. I really want to go on the national circuit and kind of prove ourselves that we are really a West Coast team that can cook with the best in the nation.
I was just talking with Mike McLeod here later in the first hour about, MMA Creative is the team, or is the company that's partnered with KCBS to add some promotion, get some more vim and vigor, and get this whole competition scene out to the masses even more than it has been, especially now with the influx of TV signups that KCBS has recognized. I mean, you're out there and you know how much money is out there at any given competition. Mike made a statement that certainly there's probably a decent handful of teams out there that are pulling in, well over 6 figures. Do you think that that's really the case, or might that be a fact of, well, they might be winning some money, but nobody's actually figuring out all the expenses that are involved that you have to subtract out of that, so you're not netting anywhere near what you might be grossing?
I think the 6-figure is definitely within the realm of possibility. If you just look at the math, I just cooked at the Smoke in the Water in Arkansas, and I believe the number one team, Rod Gray, who are our friends, they walked away with maybe $25,000 to $30,000 for one weekend's work. So the money is really good, and I truly believe that there are going to be quite a few $100,000 type contests. And most contests, even they go up to 15,000. We had one in California that was 15,000 that we ended up winning part of. And I can see it hitting six figures. There shouldn't be any problem. The popularity for barbecue has been humongous. Everywhere we go now, even in first-year contests, I'm seeing 80-plus teams. In some of the other contests that we did, there were 200-plus teams. So I definitely feel that those six-figure numbers are within reach this year.
Even when you're backing out the expenses, like as a net cost, you're going to be able to pocket money versus not just a gross figure?
I can speak for myself. We are about as low-cost a team as you can possibly imagine. I mean, I drive a minivan with just two people up front and my gear in the back. I really don't have a trailer, to haul. And even if I drive 2,500 miles one way to a contest, I can keep our expenses kind of on the low end.
So, I mean, what's your what would you say your average cost of competing at an event is going to be?
I think, as most teams will tell you, it runs about $1,000 to roll. That if you add hotel and everything else in between, and if you can cover the first 1,000 with prize money, we also do People's Choice to try to raise funds. My team is very passionate about a couple of charities, Operation Homefront for the Troops and Save the Children for children's charities. So, we try to do our best to sort of, do samples, and we donate 50% of the proceeds to those charities. But even after the charity portions aside and the costs have been deducted, if you can win sort of top placings in the contest, there should be enough money left over to keep.
So we'll see how that actually works out. And I think I agree with you. I think there's going to be a lot more competitions out there that are going to have a lot bigger prize purses than what has been out there here over the last few years. Again, Harry Soo from Slap Yo Daddy joining us here. Last question, Harry. What's with that chicken hat?
I get a lot of comments about that, and I even had a group of people who wanted me to auction off the chicken hat to charity, which I auctioned off, and I think I got $150 for it. Wow. We're going to donate it to Operation Homefront and Save the Children. I wore the chicken hat because it was cold, and that's pretty much it. And it was a hat that I had, and it's created a whole little cult following on the internet where everybody's asking me where I found the chicken hat. And I will tell everybody that I found it on chickenhat.com. Where else? And it's become kind of a signature, and I posted a picture of me with a chicken hat on the virtual Weber Bullet recently where we answered almost 300 questions for Chris Illingham. And that has sort of become my signature gimmick or my signature look. So, for whatever it's worth, the chicken hat always it makes people smile, and it reflects who we are as a team. We are a team out there who are just out there to have fun. We have an intention to win in the contest we're in, but we really have no expectation to win. Therefore, we are never disappointed when we compete. We cook from the heart with love and passion and true appreciation for this authentic American barbecue that we all love.
It sounds like you need to lob a phone call over to chickenhat.com and take about half that money you've been pulling in, man.
I think they're sold out of chicken hats already.
Yeah, I bet. So, again, Harry Soo is the pitmaster of Slap Yo Daddy Barbecue Team. Harry, got to say, first, a great first interview. Definitely going to be looking for you again here in the future. But I appreciate the insight and all the information that you shared here with me tonight. We went almost 49 minutes. So thanks again for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it.
Greg, the pleasure is all mine. And anytime you want to shoot the breeze or talk barbecue, I'm your man.
All right. I'm going to look you up. You know it. There he is. Harry Soo. Did I give you the website address? Maybe I didn't. Slap Yo Daddy BBQ. Got to have the BBQ at the end. If you Slap Yo Daddy, I can only imagine what you're going to get when you punch up .com after that. SlapYoDaddyBBQ.com. Man, pulling almost 48, 49 minutes talking about all things, the background of the team, how things went last weekend for him at his competition there in California, winning Grand Championship, winning one category, 3rd and 2, and 11th in ribs. Really covering it all, especially a TV show side. Still find that very interesting to see how people react to that and the questions that I get to ask the people that were on the TV show. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Certainly a class act. I mean, you see the guy on television, you wonder if he's really like that. I have not had any type of connection with Harry other than the last 2 weeks trying to set this particular interview up. So you can really hear the passion in his voice, and more importantly than all the passion, which is great to have, obviously, when you're doing something like Competition Barbecue, but the genuineness, the decorum, the professionalism that he brings to the interview, and he really wants to get it out there, and I, for one, certainly appreciate that, and I hope you do too. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up from here. Thanks again to Harry Sue from Slap Yo Daddy for the After Dark segment. Slap Yo Daddy. Yo. Y-O. SlapYoDaddy.com. First segment, or first hour guest, Ray Lampe, drbbq.com, or at drbbq on Twitter. And Mike McLeod from MMA Creative Incorporated. They are the marketing firm that partner with KCBS, talking about the Sam's Club KCBS deal that has just been recently put together. More on that tomorrow, so check out the KCBS website, kcbs.us, which I still think is the stupidest ending ever. .us. Dumb. MMA Creative. Here's an idea. Get rid of that US. So stupid. .us. Anyway, MMAcreative.com is the website. Maybe you're a team looking to get some promotion. Obviously, Mike knows what he's talking about, so you want to hit him up. MMAcreative.com. Use that email address. I believe it's info@MMAcreative. We'll get right back to you. It did for me today. Filled in, and I certainly appreciate it. And we'll look for Mike again. That's going to do it for me. Huge show lined up for next week. Let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about that. You don't want to hear about that? Well, it's too bad, because I'm going to tell you anyway. Next week, we have... I don't know. Where are we? How come when you pull up a calendar, it shows you the week? Derek Riches from About.com. Scott Roberts will be joining us for his monthly barbecue sauce and rub review. Ted Reeder is going to be talking about the world record burger that he cooked last weekend, so stay tuned for that. And until next Tuesday, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.